Greetings and welcome to another video. It's Sunday, 25th of August 2024, and a few moments ago I've just finished reading another Star Trek novel, and the book in question is Star Trek The Next Generation Ghost Ship. And as you can see in the top corner here, it's the first book in this particular series of Star Trek novels. Now before I continue, I'm just going to read what it says on the back. So yeah. In 1995, a mysterious creature destroys a Russian aircraft carrier and just as mysteriously disappears. And 300 years later, Chancellor Diane awakens in her quarters from a nightmare where she senses and understands the voices of a crew lost aboard that ship, a crew whose life essences were somehow absorbed within the creature that destroyed their ship long ago. Now Picard must find a way to communicate with the creature, or he and his crew will be similarly absorbed by the ghost ship. This is a fantastic book, and I'm going to be putting down details of this book in the description box below this video, but it's absolutely amazing. It is just absolutely good. I got this book a few years ago from a charity shop in Shrewsbury, and I'm glad I picked it up. I don't know why it took me so long to get around to reading it, but here we are. Yeah, the first chapter of this book is set in 1995 and on the Russian aircraft carrier, where they're testing a new piece of technology to be equipped on Russian naval vessels. From that point onwards, providing of course this test is successful. But as that test starts, the ship gets attacked and ultimately destroyed by the alien creature that the crew of the Enterprise would encounter 300 years later. And yeah, it's the conversations in this book is just absolutely amazing. And it's like, I think this book happens sometime around the first season of Star Trek The Next Generation, because one of the characters in here is Lieutenant Tasha Yar, and seeing her portrayal in this book is really positive. Tasha Yar in this book, she's a good, strong character, good at her job, and she steps up to the challenges that the Enterprise goes through here. And Worf, he's also a good character. Worf and Tasha Yar work together as a fantastic professional pair of Starfleet officers here, and they do play a good part in finding a solution to the ultimate problem. Something else in this book that I really enjoyed was, well, I hate to say it, Wesley Crusher. When I was watching Star Trek for the first time back in the 1990s, I didn't know what to make of Wesley Crusher, to be honest. Sometimes he would come across as a good, strong character, but most of the time he didn't. He was just a bit of a flop to me. And in years after, in later years, just like with a lot of other Star Trek fans, I'll be honest, Wesley Crusher was not a popular character with me. I think that was partly because the writers of the show just didn't know how to make Wesley a good character, and that was probably the biggest thing. The show producers just did not know how to make Wesley into a good, decent character. But in this book, there is, I suppose, a little bit of that. But the author of this book, let's see, Diane Carey. This is a new novel by Diane Carey. Yeah, she turns it around. She portrays Wesley Crusher as, yeah, he's a prodigy, genius kid who has potential for great things, but he also needs to temper himself, learn social interactions, he has to learn that he isn't, no matter how smart he is, he has to learn he isn't the star of a show, that he has to learn how to work with the people around him and adjust to the fact that the people around him can think of things he can't and find solutions that he can't, which is something you come to see toward the end of this book when they're putting together this particular device, which Wesley Crusher does kind of invent and put together, but as we see toward the end of this book, Captain Picard orders the ship's engineering team to come together to make this thing a reality. And yeah, it seems like Wesley starts to learn to better appreciate the rest of the Enterprise crew and the people around him. I mean, he's still a bit of a smug twat, to be honest, but he's potentially an okay smug twat. So there's that going on. And with all the other characters, like with Riker and Data, they have a bit of tension going on, which goes off in a fascinating direction I wasn't expecting. And Geordie as well. The three of them kind of bounce off each other in a interesting way. There's a lot of tension, questions and arguments are had, thoughts are put forward, which, at least in the confines of this book, are dealt with in a really, really interesting way. And Diana Troy, yeah, I think this is one of the few times where Diana Troy comes across as a really good character in this one, and she has struggles with her abilities as a Beta Z, as an empath, and trying to struggle communicating what needs to be said. Because it turns out she's through no fault of her own, she ends up being a conduit of communication with a faction within this story, and it overwhelms her in ways that she wasn't expecting, didn't want, and doesn't really appreciate, but she is left with a severe weight on her shoulders in order to try and help save the crew from the danger that's present in this book. And there's so much other things going on. There's an interesting, at one point of the book, there's an really interesting debate about what's the meaning of life. How do you define something as actually alive? But at the same time, how do you define something that's dead? The afterlife. Well, not the afterlife in a religious, metaphysical sense, but how does a person's mind and, well, soul survive when that person's body no longer exists? And all whole bunch of other things going on from this, which I'm not sure how to explain right now. But in the book, Diane Carey has a great way of putting what I've just said into words, and a few other things as well. There's an interesting conversation about euthanasia and the rights of the living versus the rights of the dead. And because the threat in this book is on the scale of, how do I put this? By now, a lot of Star Trek fans will have seen, or at least been made aware of, the episode of the original Star Trek series, The Doomsday Machine, where Captain Kirk and the crew of the original Enterprise are facing a giant, planet-killing war machine, if you will. And it's suggested in this book that the threat that the Enterprise D is facing is of an equally powerful, perhaps even more powerful, planet-destroying machine, but there's something more to it, something more sinister, something more monstrous about the machine in this book versus the machine that Captain Kirk had to destroy in the episode The Doomsday Device. So, interesting parallels going on, but an added level of sinister going on. And I think it was last week I started reading this book, and I just read the first two chapters. Well, I read the first chapter, maybe the first two chapters. I'm going to put the book down, and left it alone until about, I think, the day before yesterday. And then when I started reading again the day before yesterday, everything within this book got so interesting, so fascinating, that I just spent the entire day focused on this book. And this morning I finished the last two chapters, and it's really worth the effort. It really is worth the effort. So yeah, yeah. Now, like I said, I got this book from a charity shop in Shrewsbury. I don't know where or how people can get their own copies of this book now. Maybe second-hand bookshops, maybe online shopping on eBay, or maybe you might get lucky like I did and find it in a charity shop somewhere. There's always like Star Trek fan clubs who might want to sell and swap Star Trek novels and other stuff. How you go about finding such things, I don't know, to be honest. But however you end up in that situation where you see this available, I would suggest you grab it. It's a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it, and it was, in my opinion, much better than I was going to expect. So yeah, absolutely worthwhile, this book. So yeah, on that note, I'm going to finish this video here. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and I'll see you all soon in the next video. Take care and goodbye.